Daisy Chloe Sewell was born in Missouri in 1893. She was the youngest of 4 daughters born to VP and Mary Sewell. VP and Mary were farmers in rural northern Missouri. When Daisy was born, they owned 120 acres. The area has gently rolling hills and supports many farms still. I can imagine Daisy as a young girl, standing on this very front porch, admiring a beautiful sunset. When Daisy was 16, she started being mentioned in the local newspaper occasionally. First, when she was visited by friends. Next was a mention of her making the honor roll at school. And then, another visit from friends, including Everett Hayes, a young man who was mentioned in the earlier article. About a year and a half later, Daisy and Everett were married. They married the day Daisy turned 18. But since Everett was under 21, he was 19 then, his father had to give written permission for them to wed. The young couple settled nearby and began farming. The next year, in 1912, they welcomed a daughter, Lily Daisy. Then in 1913, another daughter, Leola Evelyn. Willadine Thelma was born in 1916. In 1918, a son was born, Lionel Everett. Then in 1920, Mary Fay was born. And in 1922, the youngest daughter arrived, Navia Jewell. Education was important to Daisy and Everett, as can be seen by several mentions in the local newspaper of their children being among the few to not miss any days of school. There was also a mention of Everett as being a prominent young farmer. Everett also worked as the road overseer for a local road district, and was mentioned in the paper when they purchased a Fordson tractor for road maintenance. Of course, there were hard times as well. Everett's draft card in 1917 lists him as physically disabled. For the reason it says kneecap knocked off, lame in leg. They also had a 1-acre parcel of land auctioned off after failing to pay property taxes on it for several years. But June 1931 would begin the hardest of times. Daisy had an operation on her lungs, which was noted in the newspaper. She was able to go home to recover, but a secondary infection set in. Sadly, 2 months later, at only 38 years old, Daisy died from pneumonia and an infection in the pleural cavity, the area between her lungs and chest wall. She was survived by her husband, all of her children, and 1 grandchild born before her death. Everett was remarried 4 years later, to Cleta. They were married for almost 40 years before his death in 1974. All of Daisy and Everett's children lived long lives, most into their 80s. Thank you for taking a few moments with me today to remember Daisy's short, yet meaningful life.